Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Grizzly Bear Sims YouTube channel, and welcome back to Midtown USA. This is Midtown episode number 23, and thank you for coming back for another episode. And we're just refueling our New Holland tractor. So today is the first game day of autumn, of fall, of harvest season, and we're harvesting yet again. And of course, if you've been watching this, and maybe if you've not been following from the very beginning and you've just been kind of picking episodes, you may have noticed that we did do harvesting a few weeks ago. We basically harvested our wheat and barley fields and also our canola fields. We planted those early because of taking advantage of the nice temperatures of this Seasons GEO that we have here installed, and took advantage of that. And of course, our big plan is to get those seeds or get those fields replanted in soybeans, which we absolutely did. Got basically. Did we plant 3 fields or 2 fields? I think 3 fields. My gosh, how long has it been, Jerry, since you've planted those? And you have already forgotten. Yeah, 3 fields. We've got 16, 17, and 15. Now, we have a hired worker over here in field number 16, and he is spraying that field, topping that field up with the last level of fertilization that is required. And we're basically going to be heading over. Where are we going? We're going to go over to fields 5 and 6. These are sunflower fields that we planted for the school children, for the ag children. And so it is Friday here, first day of fall, and it's kind of fitting that obviously if we have those kids out of school watching the harvest and everything, because they've been sort of following the progress of everything that has been going on with regards to the harvest and everything. And so they're out of school today and going to be watching us harvest that field, along with watching you harvest that field. So we've had a lot of harvesting on this map, and we've still got a lot of harvesting to do. I'll just bring up the big map here. We still have fields 7 and 8. 7 is sunflowers and 8 is corn. And then most likely by the time we get that done, it may be around the time to begin thinking about getting the soybeans harvested and getting those in as well. And that will obviously be a very good time for all of us here on Midtown USA. So what is happening in your world? I hope that everything is going well for you. Let me see if I can get a general idea of when this episode is going to air. And I'm thinking it is going to be in the like on the 26th of March. I've changed my schedule. I've introduced American Truck Simulator again to the channel. Probably just one episode a week is kind of what I'm thinking. Quite honestly, just simply because it's an itch that I want to scratch, because I enjoy that game very, very much. And hopefully he won't run into us. I enjoyed that game very, very much, and so I sort of figure, well, if I bring an episode sort of a week of that game to you all, then you guys can kind of see what I'm experiencing, some of the fun that I'm experiencing with ATS. And I've been playing around with some new mods and all sorts of mods, vehicle mods, and some basically game effect mods. Let's see, we don't need follow me anymore, so we will go ahead and unhitch the combine from the follow me train, and get, as the train goes by. That was oops, knocked that stop sign down. Well, you know me, I like to leave all these little bloopers and stuff into my videos. And the other wonderful thing about that is it gives something for our county highway crews and everything. It gives them something to do. They'll come out and re-put that sign out back in the ground for us, and it'll look magical the very next time you see it, because that is the magic of Farm Sim, the magic of the game, and all that good stuff. So let's go ahead and get this thing powered on, if I can kind of remember how to do that. And there you go. And lower our header down, and I'm just gonna basically do these 2 fields here without hiring workers and all that kind of stuff. Just enjoy running the combine. And as I've talked about in previous episodes, we do have that little bug, that issue that prevents the and I don't know, obviously it doesn't occur occur on every single field, so it's possible that the auger wagon and semi would have worked down here, but these are two fairly small fields, and I don't think, as a matter of fact, I would be quite surprised if we actually fill this harvester up on this field. It may even take a portion of the other field to fill it up. Now, of course, I could be wrong, but it's slow go right now. We're at 7% on our first, kind of on our first pass, so we'll see how that goes. We'll try not to mess up the neighbor's brick pathway there. They've done a fine job on that. Looking at that makes me sort of reminisce on the tile job, which I won't bother going back into details on, because I know I've spent quite a bit of time talking about tile and talking about my DIY home improvement projects. I do have another conversation for today, and it's a little bit of a rant, certainly not a rant towards you or towards Farm Sim or Giants or YouTube or anything like that. It's kind of a personal rant, thing that I have experienced. How many of you, and just a show of hands there, how many of you live in a HOA controlled neighborhood? Now, of course, if you don't live in the US, you may not, I don't know if HOAs really sort of exist anywhere else. And of course, HOA, by HOA, I'm meaning a homeowners association, essentially a group of individual, well, homeowners association is typically a neighborhood organized entity, I suppose, which is established usually when a community is built, and folks are generally elected, residents are elected that live in the community to serve on the board, and there's different capacities, obviously president, maybe vice president, secretary, things like that. They may also have like architectural review committees and other kind of, fun planning type committees that, they kind of think about, well, what is it that folks in the community want to experience, want to enjoy, and I'm going to be stingy, and I'm going to back up and get these couple of stalks here of sunflowers, because why not? But anyway, we have obviously lived in this HOA community for over 10 years, something like about 12 or 13 years. And hold just one second, and I'm going to go and get rid of that message down there because he's done fertilizing. Hang on. All right, and we are back. So anyway, homeowners association is basically what I live in. My neighborhood is controlled by an HOA, and for the most part over the last 12, 13, 14 years, however long we have been living here, it has been, it's not been such a bad situation. There are some advantages to living in an HOA. In other words, you don't necessarily have to worry about waking up some morning and finding out that your neighbor has painted their house pink or bright orange or green or something like that. So obviously the HOA sort of controls the colors that we can paint our houses, and typically any sort of major change that would get done to our house, our exterior of our house. Now the HOA doesn't really have any say-so on the inside of our house, but they do have say on the outside. If we make a change on the outside of our house, then we have to seek the approval of the architectural review committee just to make sure that anything that we put in is aesthetically pleasing and isn't going to upset our neighbors and those sort of things. So it's, as I said, in those respects, it's kind of a good thing. But it has also been somewhat of a bad thing for us because a number of years ago, they decided, and the HOA, the neighborhood that I live in, just to kind of set the stage here, the neighborhood that I live in was established back in 1976. So our home is one of the first homes that was built, and was built in stage 1, and that was built in 1976. And so I often talk about my old house. It's not that old, I suppose, by certain standards, but we've been doing some remodeling and some renovations and stuff like that. So that kind of just sort of sets the stage as to how old our house is. But let me just get lined up here again and drop our header, and off we go. So our house was established in 1976, and around phase two, I guess I would probably say this would be around the 78 to 79, 1979 time frame. I believe as phase two was completed, they built a clubhouse, and it has a swimming pool, it has a hot tub, it has some tennis courts, and there is a kitchen inside the clubhouse. So if folks are meeting to play bridge or watch a sporting event or something like that, they have the ability to heat up football snacks and stuff like that. Well, about 5 or 6 years ago, let me go back a little bit further than that. So maybe about 6 years or so ago, the HOA made the stipulation that we could no longer have wood shake roofs. And of course, that was a good decision, and that was always something that I would lose a little bit of sleep on, especially in the summer during the 4th of July, even though in the city and county of Denver, fireworks are banned. That doesn't stop folks from still launching them into the air, as well as around New Year's. Those are our two in the U.S. Those are our two firecracker kind of events that obviously occur. So they made this change, this rule, and so obviously all the homeowners had to comply, which we had actually already done. We had some, our roof was kind of old. I don't know if it was the original roof, but every time the wind would blow, I would go outside and pick up pieces of my roof, pieces of wood shingle, and they would often, I would use those to start little fires and stuff in our fireplace. But anyway, we went ahead and replaced our wood shake roof with a asphalt shingle, composite shingle, and everything. And so, of course, we had to have that replaced last year because of a hailstorm that had come through 2 years ago. So I don't know if I talked about that or ranted about that whole ordeal in previous episodes, but we had to do that, and so that is that. But anyway, about 5 or 6 years ago, the HOA said, well, our clubhouse, the clubhouse that everyone, kind of has access to, is in dire needs of repair. And as a result, we have basically put a plan together and have come up that we need to bill every resident, and let me just look at my notes here because I had to get this information from my wife because she is a little smarter about this stuff than I am. But there's approximately 250 homes or 250 residences in my neighborhood. And so they did this assessment, and they basically said we need to charge every resident $1,000. So a grand total of $250,000 was basically earned or taken from the residents. And of course, they were kind enough that they did it over a full year. So we paid, I think, $500 in around the first part of the year that this occurred, that this assessment went into effect, and then we paid another $500 probably in the summertime time frame, something like that, just to kind of help some folks out. Because the thing about it is while my wife and I are both still working and we both still have income and everything coming in, there are a number of original homeowners that still live here in this neighborhood. And if you could imagine being of working age, career age, and everything, and you move into a neighborhood in the 1970s and you raise your children and all that kind of stuff, and some 30, 40 years later, about 40 years later or so, somebody's coming after you for $1,000. If you're on a fixed income, that can be tough. That can be tough for you to come up with that money. And so to sort of make this story a little less longer than it needs to be with the HOA situation, that was charged, and they had a board meeting that we all went to, a homeowners association meeting that we all went to, and we talked about the things that they had budgeted for. And for example, one of the things that sort of set me off a little bit, and I don't get into politics. I'm not gonna alienate any of my viewers or my subscribers or my friends by talking about politics or even necessarily sharing my political views. I will just say that without saying anything um, without saying anything too revealing, I was raised, obviously I grew up in Texas, I was raised with conservative Christian values. So you can make of that whatever you wish. So I was brought up, you know, with the fact that, yeah, you take care of the property and everything that you own and live in and everything, but you basically live within your means, and you don't, you don't do extravagant kind of things and whatever. And so when we went to this meeting and they showed us the budget and everything that they had used to determine how much money it was going to cost to renovate the clubhouse, they showed things like large flat panel TVs and stuff. And of course, this was like 6 or 7 years ago. And I don't even know if my wife and I, in our family room, if we had a large screen flat panel TV. Now we do now. We've got about a 60-inch flat panel TV, which is fantastic for sporting events or movies or stuff like that. But I think at the time, I don't think we had anything that big. And my point of view on the whole thing was, well, why do we have nicer things in the clubhouse? And by the way, they budgeted like $10,000 or $10,000 to $12,000, I think, for the whole entertainment package thing in the clubhouse. And I'm like, okay, why are we putting a $10,000 to $12,000 entertainment system into the clubhouse that is only probably going to get used, a few times a year, let's say every weekend, with the exception of maybe 1 or 2 holiday weekends, things like that. Why are we going to do that? Well, I was kind of shut down. My dialogue and conversation and everything was kind of shut down, and I sort of walked out with the impression that really the clubhouse is used by a small handful of residents, and yet they want the rest of us to more or less pay for, them to have an opportunity to come together and play bridge and do this and do that and whatever. All right, so, no worries. We went ahead and those of us that voiced our concerns and everything lost the argument, and we had to pay the $1,000 assessment and everything. And of course, we were told that the clubhouse was a huge marketing area, point of topic and everything for the neighborhood, and helped increase the home values and all of that kind of stuff. Well, I don't know if that's the case. I'm not a realtor, but I sort of wonder if that really does matter, especially in this day and age where, people, TVs and stuff like that are a little more affordable. Plus, most of the homes in this neighborhood, I know for a fact because ours did as well, and the master baths, we have jacuzzi tubs and stuff like that. So, coming together for a hot tub, yeah, maybe the swimming pool's kind of cool, but again, keep in mind that our average age is in the neighborhood is into the 60s or so. Even though I'm coming up on 52 this year, my wife and I are still one of the youngest homeowners in this neighborhood. Okay, and yes, while the swimming pool is kind of cool to have, we've used it maybe 3 times since we've lived here. It also draws in. It's also problematic because it draws in some folks that don't live here, that basically come into our property, come into our neighborhood, jump the fence, and we often catch people swimming in the swimming pool in the summertime that are not residents of the neighborhood. And they're smoking and they're drinking and they're smoking pot, and they usually leave the place dirty and nasty. As a matter of fact, some kids were chased out a few years ago. Well, they returned. Unfortunately, they returned, and they threw in the swimming pool, they threw in some soap and they also threw in all of the potted plants and things that some folks had set out there around the pool and everything. They threw all of those in, and it cost several $1,000s to clean the pool up. So, well, anyway, again, kind of long story short, and let's see, this episode is coming up on about 20 minutes, so I need to kind of wrap this up so I can tell this story all in one episode. So we got a letter last week, I believe it was, that they were once again assessing money from the residents to pay for the hot tub renovation. The hot tub, the city and county of Denver passed new city ordinances, new planning permit requirements and everything, and basically did not grandfather anything in. So if you have a hot tub, that is available, that's not private. So if it's a private hot tub, it does not apply. But if it's a hot tub that is, got multiple, people have access to or whatever, the city and county of Denver basically passed an ordinance or passed a set of laws that basically says that, you have to bring it up to code. And the hot tub here at our neighborhood is not up to code, and probably, is based on code from, maybe 20 years ago or so. I don't know that for a fact, but anyway, it's not up to code. And so the architectural review committee and everything put together another assessment to essentially charge, and let me lower this and get straight with the world here and then glance over at my notes again that my wife gave me. They assessed, again, 250 residents $300 each. So that comes up to $75,000 if I can read my hen scratch correctly. So $75,000 hot tub. Do hot tubs cost $75,000 to install? Now, I think that they're going to put, I don't know if it's going to be enclosed. I do know that they said something about this would allow the hot tub to be open year-round, so I'm assuming that maybe there is some kind of an enclosure of some sort that, includes in this. But let me just say this, that, in this day and age, yeah, I'm all about keeping people employed. I'm all about doing things that are for the better of the entire community. Our streets, which we are not part of for whatever reason, they made a deal with the city a number of years ago, and I don't understand what all this basically means, but essentially they made a deal with the city a number of years ago where the city does not provide any sort of street maintenance for our streets inside of our neighborhood. Obviously, the city and county of Denver patrols or works on the streets on the outside of the neighborhood. And let's face it, the city and county of Denver does not have the most wonderful streets in the world. Our streets may somewhat resemble third world countries at times, and they'll say it's because of the weather and everything like that, but I think it's because of timing and poor planning. They'll come around and repave a street in October, and then we'll start having our first snow falling in late October, November, the freezes and all that kind of stuff, and I think that that's bad timing on their part. I think asphalt, concrete, those kind of things are best done in the earlier summer months where it has time to cure and all of that kind of stuff. But anyway, I digress. That's kind of a different conversation for maybe a different time. But anyway, this whole assessment, again, $75,000 for this hot tub renovation stuff, and I really think it's just a small handful of people that use it. And my wife and I, we're going to go to the meeting, and we're going to voice our reluctance to support it and everything. And again, it's kind of because there's only a small handful of people that use it. The hot tub is also another point of contention with young people, with people sneaking into the community and everything to use it. I was up there last summer, and there were some folks. We'll let the train go by, and I'll take another swig of coffee here. Anyway, there were some folks using the hot tub, and I'm pretty sure they were not residents of the community. And so, as far as I'm concerned, again, kind of going back to the fact that I know for a fact that most homes have a jacuzzi tub in them, and they may not be in functional order if the homeowners haven't taken care of them or whatever, but that's their problem, not mine. And I guess the point that I'm trying to make in this whole situation is that I do not want to have to be responsible. I do not want to have to more or less pay for other people to have enjoyment out of something that it may not be in the best interest of everybody involved. And I really don't think my wife did some digging on the internet, and she found a more or less a real estate guide to selling homes and everything, and the question more or less was raised in this article, and many real estate agents sort of chimed in and gave their opinion. And I don't know if any of you guys are in real estate or know anything about real estate, but the opinion of many realtors is that a jacuzzi or a hot tub or a sauna or anything like that is part of a property, part of a residence, is not always a good investment, especially if you're looking at selling a house, to go in and put these things in, because of the high maintenance costs, all of that, the things that can go wrong with them, etc. So I know that this is a little bit different scale of concept when it comes to a neighborhood amenity, and the tennis courts need a lot of work done on them. I think the tennis courts are used by many more people than quite possibly what the jacuzzis and the pool and everything like that is used for. I would say, keep the pool going, but let's basically ditch the jacuzzi. Let's rip that out of there, and not have that, because, well, it's just, they want $75,000 for it to do the repairs, or maybe it's to replace the whole thing. I don't really know, but I'm not going to be pleased about it if, obviously, like I said, my wife and I were going to go to, or at least I will go to the meeting, and probably voice my concerns. And, but if we lose the argument, we won't have any say. It will be, the board is going to make the decision, one way or the other. They're obviously open to hearing people's arguments and everything, but at the end of the day, they're going to make the decision. And so we won't have, other than going there and saying, we basically would like for you guys to reconsider this. At the end of the day, if the board all wants it, then the board's going to get it, and that's my fear. My fear is that we have, for whatever reason, the people that are on the board are the ones that want the expensive TVs in the clubhouse and want the expensive. I mean, even the kitchen in the clubhouse has appliances that rival, and we've got nice appliances in our home. That is one thing that I sort of believed in, and when we moved into our home, we replaced our appliances pretty quick. Within the first year or two, we had updated our kitchen to nice stainless appliances and everything, and we got good name brand stuff that was rated pretty high with regards to reviews and all that kind of stuff, and because that's an investment. But quite honestly, I don't know if I see the same thing. We need to move our semi out of the way. I don't know if I agree with the same philosophy of putting a fancy kitchen and everything, glass cooktop, all that kind of stuff inside the clubhouse situation, only because again, it's just not used that much. And I'm not saying that you've got to go to Lowe's and you got to get the um, the model that's been damaged or maybe returned or whatever, that is, doesn't look great or whatever. I'm not saying that that's what we've got to necessarily do, but I'm just saying that there needs to be some kind of, there needs to be sort of a happy medium, so to speak. And I just don't see the value of putting something that's more expensive in a clubhouse type environment than what some folks have in their own homes. But anyway, the clock here says 31 minutes. I think I'm going to be cutting a few minutes out of it, just from some of the things that I've had to stop and do. So we will go ahead and dump this, and then we'll have to dump this kind of carefully because of this loading chute up there, but should be able to do all right here. And anyway, I'll just spend this time as we watch the sunflowers fall out of the Penta DB50 tipper, my favorite tipper in the game. I will just say thank you all so much for watching. I appreciate you guys tuning in each week for new episodes of Midtown USA and Tazewell County. And like I said before, we'll have at least maybe one episode a week of ATS, maybe mix up ATS and ETS2, since they're kind of the same thing. Really just different areas where these things operate from. But anyway, I appreciate you guys watching. I appreciate all your comments and your friendship and everything. Wonderful, wonderful. It's all wonderful. And when we come back for the next game day, I will probably off camera get that rest of the sunflowers done off camera, and then when we come back together, we'll be on a new game day, and we'll probably be looking at that cornfield, getting that done, because we have 3 game days of rain coming up. And I'm hoping, my fingers are crossed, my legs are crossed, my toes are crossed, my eyes are crossed, that maybe, just maybe, come about Wednesday, the 6th game day of autumn, that we'll be able to start bringing those beans in, because not sure what the 9th game day holds of weather, but we've got rain on that 8th game day. So we should be able to get the beans done in 2 days, I would hope, and get those in, and then our harvest will be done. Thankfully, yay! It's been a lot of fun. Well, anyway, folks, thank you all so much for watching and listening to my rant here about HOA woes. If you've got HOA woes yourself, feel free to come over to Discord and share those with me. Maybe we can just help each other out and listen to each other and listen to our HOA woes. But anyway, thank you all again so much for watching. And until next time, folks, take good care of yourselves and also of each other. God bless you all, and see you next time. Bye-bye.